G'day everyone, hi, it's James Beazley, Managing Director of Six Group, and welcome to the Weekly Bees. I've just got back from my summer holidays, had a fantastic time in Seville with the family, surfing, and it's always a great time to do one of the things I love to do but don't have much time to do normally, which is read. And I read about 7 books on holiday, but there's 5 I wanted to talk to you about today. Most of the books I read are kind of business focused, but then I also try to read something a bit more fun as well. And so today I've got 5 books. I've got ReOrg, which is by Heidari-Robinson and Suzanne Heywood. The next book I've got is by Lord Digby Jones, which is called Fixing Business. Another great book I read, Matthew Syed, love his stuff. It's called Black Box Thinking. And then this one, which was given to me by my mate Gary Sanderson, thank you, is The Small Big. Absolutely brilliant book. And then my kind of fun book, which I encourage everyone to read, would be this one, which is called Up Pohnpei by Paul Watson. So I'm just going to tell you a little bit about them, and then we'll see where we go to after that. Now, ReOrg, written by 2 high achievers, so Stephen Heidari-Robinson and Suzanne Heywood were the ones that established the OD practice at McKinsey. What these 2 don't know about ReOrgs, no one else does. Both high achievers. Stephen was an ex-British 5,000 metre swimmer. He's got a number of different organisations at the moment. They've gone on to do some great work. Suzanne Heywood grew up on a boat sailing around Asia Pacific, where there'll be another book coming out about that soon. She's the MD of Exor and is also the deputy chair of the Opera House, as well as on the boards of The Economist and CNH. So these 2 really highly qualified people. Came across them through an HBR article which was talking about ReOrg. And here at Six we do a lot around ReOrgs and transformational change. A lot of clients seem to just completely and utterly over-egg the pudding and overcomplicate things. And this is the first time I've actually seen a book which distills this down into 5 really clear, practical approaches to how you do a successful ReOrg. I actually sent them a LinkedIn note after I read the HBR article saying I was going to buy the book, and both of you came back, so thank you, Stephen and Susan. Again, when I looked at the book, the way they write it, they have a really great mechanism where they use a case study of a lady called Amelia and she takes you on the journey of her doing her ReOrg. If Amelia's a real person, I'd love to have your CV because you're absolutely brilliant. And really bring it back to those 5 steps is going in. What we say to our clients is, why are you ReOrging? What's the business case? Do you actually even know why you're doing this and what the organisation is going to get? And then look at what you've got currently, where you're going to go to, and the multiple different types of organisations that could come as a result of what you're trying to do. Then pick one and then go for it and get the plumbing and wiring right, and then go and launch, learn and adapt. Absolutely brilliant. High praise here. If you look on the back, they've worked with everyone from Lord Brown at BP to Lady Barbara Judge, so Andrew Whitty at GlaxoSmithKline. So fantastic book. The next one was a book by Lord Digby Jones. I went to a lunch just before holidays at the Theatre of Dreams, Old Trafford, although not really a Theatre of Dreams at the moment for Mr. Mourinho, probably a bit of a nightmare. But had a fantastic lunch there, met Lord Digby Jones, and he gave us this book. This is his second book, which he says has a very humble title of Fixing Business, which came after his first attempt of fixing Britain. But at the lunch, we were talking about how do we fix the perception of big business. Most of us, look at big business with a tone of pessimism, and because of they're unscrupulous, they're crooks, tax dodging, people who are only out for themselves. Lord Digby really brings about in this book the whole philosophy of socially inclusive wealth creation. And it really rams home to those of you who are business owners or managers and executives in big business. What does that actually really mean? Business within the UK, at least, is the absolute foundation for the whole country working. We create jobs for people, we create innovation by virtue of our success. We're the biggest contributor to tax, which then pays for the public service and wonderful things like the NHS. People kind of forget those things, and Lord Digby really hones in on that on this book to really push big business to actually think about this, about move away from the 60, 90, 100 days payment for small to medium enterprises, penalising them, when in actual fact you should be trying to help them, because the more you create wealth, the better and more sustainable your business is. The lunch was a great lunch with a lot of leaders there from around the whole of Greater Manchester in the Northern Powerhouse. There's about 20 of us around the table. And he's a fantastic presenter. And if you see this, Lord Digby, we'd love to have an interview with you to learn a little bit more, because it was a great read. Next one is Matthew Syed. I already said to you I really like this guy. I've read some of his other stuff before. This one is Black Box Thinking. When I first started to read it, I thought, oh, here we go. Here's another book about, black box within an aeroplane, and now we're going to be reading 306 pages of how great a black box is. But it was a lot more than that. This is all about marginal gains and the secret of high performance. And I really like the way he wrote, because he used examples that we can all relate to and we've all heard of. So classic ones was the Mercedes Formula One team and Team Sky. How did they go from nothing to almost having a dominant position in their sport? And this was all about a philosophy of allowing mistakes and learning from mistakes, and actually having mistakes as part of the culture of an organisation to improve. So similar to what we do here, we call it launch, learn, adapt and grow. So everything we do is all about learning, adapting and growing each time. And this really brings it home, because there's some real evidence in there. Everything on the Team Sky example was every rider has their own bed, and that bed is taken to every single hotel on every single stage of the race. And it's these little marginal gains that add up to something quite big. And at the end, that was it. It was the small things that add up to something big, which brings me on to this next book, which is called The Small Big. No comments, but The Small Big. Small changes that spark a big influence. This one was written by a guy called Steve Martin, and he's done a lot in behavioural science, and Noah Goldstein. There's also Robert Cialdini, who is really famous in this, a US guy who helped in terms of the forward and other things. But the reason I love this book is it's written by a European, and whilst there's a lot of fantastic US behavioural scientists, and most leadership books come from a US-centric point of view, they come with US-centric examples, which are great. But as an Australian and someone who's spending a lot of time in the European context, it's hard to relate to sometimes, because there are cultural differences. But this comes up with a whole range of examples, both from US, but also particularly European, and even some Asian ones. And the thing which really gets me on this one is it's all about small changes that don't cost anything or hardly anything, don't take any more time, but actually result in a huge impact. And this is everything from just changing the language slightly within a sentence, such that people have an emotional need to actually do something different to what they did before, and by virtue of that, it has a huge impact. The other thing is the way it's written. It's a big book, quite thick. It's about over 400 pages, I think it is. And but every chapter is written 4 to 5 pages, so it literally only takes you 10 minutes. And it's the absolute personification of the small big. And the way it's written is you can pick what you want. Everything from how could a small step back lead to a big leap forward? What small big can lock people into your persuasion attempts? What unexpected small big can empower an uncertain expert? Right down to what small change to the way you frame a message can lead to big differences in outcome. For me, this is just going to be a Bible. I've already given it to my marketing director to do some stuff, and it's I think it's very powerful when it comes to different change and org as well. Which brings me to the fun book, which is Up Pohnpei. Up Pohnpei was written by a guy called Paul Watson. It's one of these ones where I think we've all been there as kids with your best mate, wanting to be dreaming of being an international rock star, an international ballet performer, an international footballer, whatever. In this case, was exactly that, the latter. Paul and his mate Matt wanted to be international footballers, so they combed the world looking for the one team that was hopeless, that they knew they could get an international shirt on. What happened was it actually changed, and they discovered this place called Pohnpei, which is a remote Pacific island. It's known for the fact of the highest rate of obesity, the highest rainfall, and more toads per square inch on any football pitch in the world. Absolutely brilliant. Didn't become an international footballer, but he became an international football coach. And it's his journey. The message I get from it, though, is just the message of resilience and really sticking to something, as well as bringing out a sense of self-responsibility, because he could have just gone out there and done something, come back and not done anything. But it's a brilliant book, and I know he's gone on to do some other stuff as well. Paul, if you're watching this, absolutely brilliant. Again, would love to have an interview with you as well to talk around things around resilience and how it works, and what you did there. That's it, guys. So for all the authors here, I know we've sent messages out to you as well. We'd love to hear comments back. Anyone else who's read this or read any of the books, would love to hear your comments to see if you liked it, didn't like it, and put the comments below the video. I'm going to try and get back to you. Next 3 weeks I'm travelling a lot, so I'll do the weekly bees before the 3 weeks, and then when I come back I'm going to get everyone's comments and then try and actually get them on the next live video that I can do, because I'm off to Singapore, off to Helsinki, off to the US, and there'll be some great stories there for when I get back. In the meantime, the next 3 will be just some comments and thoughts around leadership and what we've been experiencing. And thanks for listening, and look forward to seeing you all again. That's the Weekly Bees.